Hello, this is episode 29 of the Movie Burner podcast, the weekly podcast from Movie Burner Entertainment, where we discuss the latest entertainment news, reviews and share our views. So what's up first, John?
First, Stephen, we're going to be discussing the latest release. I don't know if you've heard of it, Avengers Infinity War. It's been out just under a week now, Stephen. We're going to review and break it down, aren't we?
Yeah, before we go any further forward, John, I think it's only fair to say that this is going to be spoilers galore here. We went and saw this over the weekend. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I would say it's probably the greatest superhero movie ever made.
And I wouldn't disagree with that, Stephen. It's certainly the greatest Marvel film ever made, no doubt about it. And you just see what it's doing at the box office. It's ridiculous. It's just broke the domestic record in the United States, $257 million, I think it's earned. Absolutely insane. And it deserves it. We were discussing that when we came out of the cinema the other night, Stephen. We says it's better than The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It's a better film, and it deserves to earn more, and it's earned more. So hats off to Kevin Feige and Marvel and Disney, because they deserve it. Disney don't care, because the top 3 films I think are all Disney films, so they're raking it in. But certainly this film, I absolutely enjoyed it as well, Stephen. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So many highlights in here, be it comedy, visuals, everything. Absolutely stunning film. Just hats off to them. But we're going to break it down bit by bit. But I'll let you back in.
Yeah, John, I think the expectations and the predictions, certainly our predictions, have been surpassed.
Yeah.
We knew this was going to be a successful movie anyway, but totally mind blown. We'll certainly get into that shortly, but I did notice on social media today that there was a personal message to Marvel from Kathleen Kennedy, congratulating them on the success. You know, as you said, Disney will be rubbing their hands anyway. They're in a win-win situation with Marvel and Lucasfilm anyway. It's just a great time to be a comic book movie fan.
It is, Stephen, and I bet Kathleen Kennedy would die for the kind of success that Avengers Infinity War is getting just now. Not to say that those 2 films were unsuccessful. I mean, I think The Last Jedi grossed about $1.4 billion, but I think this is going to exceed this above and beyond by quite a bit. But moving into the film itself, Stephen, we'll try and go through it bit by bit if we can remember it right. We're kind of a wing in this here. But the opening, what can you say about that opening, Stephen? It was a direct continuation of the Thor Ragnarok end credits scene. Went right into it. No punches pulled. We were getting Mayday calls, and there's utter carnage. I think it's Ebony Maw. He's doing his little speech he likes to do every time they conquer a world. We see that again later on in the film in the flashback scene. And right away, they set the tone of the film with Thanos just unleashing pure and utter carnage on everything in sight. Kills Loki. I kind of predicted that, didn't I?
Yeah.
I think everyone seen that coming. The God of Mischief ran out of mischief. He double-crossed him one time too many. But I absolutely love this opening as well. Seeing Thor getting humbled, seeing Loki getting humbled. It was sad for Loki because he is a great character. He will be missed. There's been a lot of deaths in this film, which most people will know about now, but I do think Loki's done. Certainly, I don't think he's coming back. I think he's done. He's one of the proper deaths in this film. But just seeing the Hulk as well, that moment the Hulk gets unleashed and then he gets the shit kicked out of him by Thanos, that was ridiculous. That just, if anything, showcases the brute strength of Thanos. That did. He gets overwhelmed for about 20 seconds and then he gets his wits about him again and just kicks the living shit out of him. What an opening.
Yeah, the Hulk just came out of nowhere and caught Thanos on the back foot. Just getting back to those opening scenes, John, very dark.
Yeah.
Those bodies just lying about everywhere. It does beg the question at that point in the movie, what the hell has happened here? But listen, right away we know what kind of film this is going to be. The death of Loki. No one's safe. That's basically what the Russo brothers are saying. And just the battle between Hulk and Thanos was over very quickly, which really surprised me. I thought they would go toe to toe for a wee while, but it wasn't to be, and it showed the brute strength of this villain. And
then after that, Stephen, I think we get Idris Elba's character going out in a heroic fashion as well. He makes his end. I believe it's Heimdall his name is, I'm not 100% sure though, the gatekeeper of Asgard, and he opens up a portal and allows Hulk to escape the scene, and he gets sent towards Earth. And then that's one thing I did enjoy about this film as well. The way that the characters were all introduced early on in the film, it was quite frenetic, the pacing, but I think they'd done it in an organic way. I think that it was quite natural the way they introduced them all. Any other director on this film could have done this and it would have been a complete disaster. You could have said, oh, there's Iron Man coming in, there's Spider-Man coming in, and it just would have been jarring. But I thought the way they handled it, introduced them all, it was really smart the way they done it. And then obviously when they get to Earth, he crashes through the Sanctorium and meets Doctor Strange and Benedict Wong's character. I always forget that guy's name. And obviously he then warns them that Thanos is coming. And again, the way they introduce those characters, it's very organic, very natural. We then see Tony Stark speaking to Pepper Potts. That's a brief little lull in the action. You get to see the whole feel of the film slow down a little bit. He's talking away to her, talking about potential marriages and having babies and stuff like that and dreaming about it. And then Doctor Strange and Bruce Banner come through the portal, alert him, and then all hell breaks loose with Ebony Maw coming down into the city with the Black Dwarf and unleashing chaos, and we get to see another great action sequence taking place.
Yeah, it reminded me of the first Avengers film, those city scenes. You know, the introduction to Doctor Strange as well was very early on, which I liked. I was looking forward to seeing the interactions between him and Tony Stark. We already saw a glimpse of this with Peter Quill and Tony Stark in the trailer. We knew what we were going to get from those two guys, but from the interactions very early on from Doctor Strange and Tony Stark, bearing in mind, taking you back to their both original films, very similar in, you know, their arrogance and their cocky, sure about themselves way, you know, and it was very interesting to see how these two would interact. Turns out it was very funny, you know, interaction, especially when Bruce Banner is struggling to bring out the green monster in himself, which I think the whole theatre was in stitches at this point.
Yeah, Bruce, you're embarrassing me.
Yeah, in front of the wizards. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things I love about Marvel films is their humour. It's not too much, and it's never out of place. Yeah. And you've seen that very early on. You saw it again with Peter Parker as well, when he comes into it. Basically his introduction was already in the trailer anyway, on the school bus, and then swinging across the Hudson River, and that little scene that we saw in one of the very last trailers about, hi, I'm Peter, or whatever it says, I can't remember, and he says, I'm Doctor Strange, or we're using our pretend names, or whatever it is he says. Just that level of humour, I love that.
Yeah, I thought the humour was consistently fantastic in this film, Stephen. They got off with a right bang. I mind saying that to you just as we came out, that I thought Tony Stark, Iron Man, for the first half hour, he was just unbelievably funny in this film. He even says a little thing to Doctor Strange when the ship comes down. Doctor, are you moving your hair or something like that? And it was really, really funny. It caught me off guard. But even the action in the early parts of this film, you get to see, which is essentially underlings of Thanos coming into play with Ebony Maw and the Black Dwarf. These are underlings. And it's taking three or four of the more prominent members the MCU and Tony Stark, Peter Parker and Doctor Strange to subdue them, and they're struggling for a while too. It's quite an intense battle that we see between them. So that was interesting to me, just again setting up the tone of the film early on. This isn't even Thanos, this is a guy's underlings coming in the Black Order, and they're struggling with these guys. Any one of these characters I felt watching this film could have been villains in their own right. They could have come in and been a main villain. They were all quite strong, they all took a bit of beating, with multiple Avengers teaming up to take them down throughout the film. That early scene was fantastic. I think we get to see Doctor Strange early on using his time warping things. Love that power he's got. It's just fantastic. Later on in the film it gets used, and it was stunning, that moment with Thanos. But yeah, I loved that early action scene we got to see. Even in the park, I think they were taking on Black Dwarf, and it was quite a good battle. And then obviously they go up into space, and we get to see that much maligned iron spider suit. I don't know what the exact name is, but I know a lot of people were slagging it, but in the end it did come in quite handy with the legs and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll let you in, Steve.
Just going back to what you were saying about those underlings, John, and the sheer power of them. Any of them were, you know, match for any of our Marvel heroes. It reminds you that you know, the first Avengers film that came out, we talked about this when we came out the theatre. And we're trying to remember who the villain was, and it was Loki, you know. And when you think back, he was such a prominent villain in that film, and looking back and looking to what they're dealing with now, shows, you know, it just shows the progression in the movies in general, but also shows the progression in our movie villains as well. And as you said, it kind of signifies the sheer power of Thanos. if these guys are under him, it signifies his sheer power, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was always a major bugbear with some people with Marvel in the cinematic universe. Some of the villains they felt were a little bit underpowered. They didn't have much of an influence in the film. Certainly Thanos is a completely different ballgame. He's got major influence in this film. And his underlings, as I said, were extremely powerful, which took me by surprise. Not having a huge amount of knowledge with comics, I wasn't aware of just how strong some of these chaps were, but they certainly were. But obviously, as I said, the film introduces a lot of the characters as it goes on in the early part. It's all quite compartmentalised. You've got different perspectives, different time periods and stuff all interconnecting. And shortly afterwards, we get to see the Guardians of the Galaxy characters coming up on the scene of the intro with the ship, which is now blown to smithereens. And they also obviously rescue Thor. And again, you talk about humour, Stephen. When Thor comes into play here and he starts mingling with the Guardians of the Galaxy characters, he's calling Rocket a rabbit. And he's having a little bit of battle of the wills with Peter Quill. That was a funny moment, wasn't it? When he's saying, "Are you mocking me?" and stuff like that. Peter Quill was obviously intimidated by him. He's trying to put on a deeper voice. He's intimidated by the size and strength of him. Drax, on the other hand, he's completely mesmerised. He's saying this is a man, a beautiful man with muscles and stuff like that. Drax, again, was fantastic. And I think the humour of Thor in particular, I think it just carried straight over from Ragnarok. It was a very funny film, very different tone for a Marvel film. And he just carried on like he finished off in that film. He came in with great humour. He was obviously a little bit arrogant in the early versions. He was like an arrogant chap with his bravado and his power, but he's kind of a change. It was in a similar vein to like Joey and Friends. In that first season, he's like kind of an arrogant, cocksure chap, and then he changes to a little bit of a funny figure of fun. That's kind of what Thor was like in this. He's definitely progressed as a character throughout the years, and I thought his introduction was brilliant as well. And the way they split off, obviously, and go separate ways. He goes to Endavala or something like that, and then they head off to meet the Collector. I love that moment. Again, talking about introductions and comedy, it all came together beautifully.
Getting back to what you were saying about Drax, I think he had the same screen time as he had in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. A lot of people had a problem with that. They certainly couldn't have a problem with it in this film. There was so much, I think it was about 28 prominent characters. I can't remember if it was as much as that or as little as that, John, but I just loved those interactions between Peter Quill and Thor. Definitely, there was a battle of the alpha male on that ship, and it was absolutely hilarious as he imitated Thor's accent, and you need that in these films. You need the Peter Quills in these films and the Guardians of the Galaxy in these movies, because that seems to be the issue with what DC are doing. They're going too dark and too serious, and there isn't a lot of comic relief. Not saying you have to go full slapstick, but those little droplets of humour from Peter Quill is needed in these films, and that character is one of the standout performances in this film. We'll obviously get into a bit more as we see the character develop through the film, when he obviously discovers some unsettling news. But I thought Chris Pratt's performance was absolutely bang on. I thought he was coming into his own. It was good to see him playing outside the box from the Guardians of the Galaxy films and interacting with these other characters. As I said previously, the interactions with Tony Stark were absolutely amazing, really funny, and it was really just a battle of upstaging each other, certainly in those early scenes and interactions with Thor. But as I said, Drax is a great character. He's one that you can't really use too much because he is very one-dimensional, but that's what makes him so funny. But just moving on, John.
Yeah, they obviously head to Edinburgh after that, I believe. Obviously in Scotland. That was a surprise. I knew they filmed there, but I kind of left my mind. And then I also went in and we seen that moment that says Scotland, I believe. I think it even says Edinburgh. That was interesting. Obviously that introduces Vision and Scarlet Witch into the picture. Again, very organic the way they do it. There's a earlier interaction between Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, and he's saying he's went off the radar, and they're talking about who can we get to track him down. And I think Bruce Banner actually phones up Steve Rogers after all the fracas in the battle in New York. And this is another excellent way of introducing all those characters. As I said previously, it's all very compartmentalised. We've got different perspectives. We go to Edinburgh, it introduces Vision and Scarlet Witch. Vision at this point's obviously going full human. He's lost his red look. That is until he gets a stab to the abdomen from, I believe, Corvus Glaive, another one of the Black Order underlings. Him and Proxima Midnight turn up to really try and corner him to get the Mind Stone, and then we get a real cat and mouse action chase again. But before that, we do get a more intimate, slower pace thing. That's something I think they've done well. They utilised the comedy well, they utilised pacing well. It was frenetic for the most part of this film, but the pacing did drop down in little points in the film. We get more intimate interactions. We've seen it previously with Pepper Potts and Tony Stark. Again, we've seen it with Vision and Scarlet Witch. Then it explodes into action again. We get to see them taking on the 2 members of the Black Order. Things are not going well for them. They're kind of getting wrecked. He gets stabbed quite badly. She kind of patches him up a bit. And then we see Steve Rogers, Black Widow and Falcon entering the fray, and they take over and overwhelm him. That was a great moment again. Brilliant introduction for that character. I thought Steve Rogers was fantastic in this. A little bit underused, but I did enjoy his moments in the film. This was one of the better moments for him.
I think the character, though, is in a different place from the rest of them after the fallout of Civil War, John.
Yeah.
You certainly saw that in those earlier scenes when, Bruce was trying to get Tony to give him a ring. Obviously, Bruce not being on Earth, didn't know what was happening. But going back to those Edinburgh scenes, it was nice to see our capital city in one of these films. I thought the setting was really nice.
Yeah.
I thought the interactions between Wanda and Vision were quite sweet. It was one of the problems I had, or one of the very few problems I had, was the relationship between both of them. There was no romantic build-up to where they are at this point in this film, which I was kind of, it was a bit off-putting. And she certainly seems to have lost her accent as well. I kind of picked up on that as well. Just moving on, the introduction to Steve Rogers as well, fully bearded Captain America, was very theatrical. I quite liked that.
Yeah, with the train.
And the battle scenes as well throughout the city as well was really just reminiscent of the previous battle we saw in New York, really, going toe for toe. And again, showing the Black Order's sheer power and how they could be a match for any of the Avengers. But no, it was a great opening to I like Paul Bettany as an actor, and I think the character of Vision has really come on leaps and bounds since his early days as Jarvis, as a voice, and all these combinations that Bruce Banner does explain, that form this character. And I thought it was good to see him having a prominent role in this film.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people criticising Vision in this film, saying he was a little bit gimped, a little bit of a hindrance. Every time he popped up on screen, he was getting ragdolled by the Black Order, and he was like a man down at times. But I think they're failing to forget he did get stabbed in the abdomen with this kind of a spear type thing that Corvus Glaive has got. That's also done some serious damage to him. Scarlet Witch says at one point, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but she says she can't heal it and she's just going to sort him out temporarily or something along those lines anyway. So that was the reason for that. I mean, he's clearly been badly injured. He was almost humanoid, totally human, and then he turned right back to Vision. He went to his red android self again, so he was clearly messed up quite a bit by that attack. But after that, Stephen, we move on to the ship again, which we've seen earlier with Ebony Maw, and he's kind of a torturing Doctor Strange at this point with all those shards. That was a very, very cool visual moment. And we get to see Peter Parker introducing himself again to Iron Man. He thought he was safely back on Earth, and they hatch up a plan together to try and save Doctor Strange. And again, as we say, the much maligned Spider Iron Man suit comes into great use here. I liked the little reference to the aliens as well, the little pop cultural reference. He says, "You're no match for me," or something like that to Tony Stark, and he says, "Yeah, but the boy knows more about pop culture," or something like that, and he gets sucked out into space. That was a great moment. Spider legs on that suit get put to very good use. And then obviously Ebony Maw meets his death. It was reminiscent of Leia in The Last Jedi, but unfortunately for him, he's not got the Mary Poppins trait built into him, so he wasn't coming back from that, and I liked that. That was a great moment because he was a little bitch and I loved him. He was arrogant and I loved his death. But obviously after that, they bicker back and forth about whether to go to Titan or whether to return to Earth. There's actually an interesting moment where Doctor Strange says if it comes between the Time Stone being saved and Hughes dying, then I'm sorry, this Time Stone's going to win all the time. And that actually is quite an important thing to take into context towards the end of the film, because Obviously, what happens at the end of this film, it's very interesting. A lot of people have speculated whether this may have been deliberate. Him obviously handing the time stone over later on in the film. It's a guy that's very overprotective of it, doesn't want to lose it. So if he's giving it over, then it's going to have ramifications going forward. But I digress, I'm giving it on, Stephen. I'll let you in and tell me what your thoughts were on that scene. I thought that was one of the more visually alluring scenes in the film.
And just after that, John, we get to see Don Cheadle's War Machine interacting with William Hurt's character, Secretary of the State, I think he is. He's certainly cropped up in a few of these films over the years, and there's a bit of conflict. I think actually at one point War Machine commits treason.
Yeah.
But this is really just setting up where we're going, with these characters later on in the film in Wakanda.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it just there's an interaction at the end of that scene where they discuss how they can go about removing the stone from Vision's head and how they can save him. And I think one of them says, who would have the expertise to do it? We don't know anyone. And I think then Steve Rogers says he knows. And obviously he's talking about Zuri in Wakanda, obviously T'Challa's sister, who's super intelligent and incredible with technology and stuff. And that sets up them going to Wakanda, which was another great moment coming back there after, of course, Black Panther earlier in the year. But I think in between that, we see Thor going to Davila, which was one of the more interesting scenes. We get to see Peter Dinklage popping up as, I think, Eitri, I think his name is, the Dwarfen King or something. That was a little bit ridiculous to me. I don't know if that was done because that's what he's like in the comics, but that oversized dwarf look, I was like, what the hell is going on here? I think I turned to you and says, what is this? He was okay, and I love Peter Dinklage. I think he's a great actor. He had a little bit of screen time, nothing huge, despite his size, which was huge. But I love those moments in the film as well, with Thor trying to reignite the forge and stuff and stepping in front of that opening, I think, and he gets all the star power shot through him. That again shows the sheer power that Thor possesses. This isn't a regular guy, this is a god. And of course later on in the film, this further highlights this, that he is more than a match for Thanos when he's on his game. Love those scenes, love the back and forth between Rocket, Groot, Thor and Eitri. Eitri's also down in his luck at this point. It's revealed that he made the gauntlet for Thanos, and he's not happy at Thor, who he thinks is abandoning him.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage, his character, is it Eitri, did you say it was, John?
I think it's Eitri, yeah, I had to Google
it was quite funny, seeing this massive character. And he also, his voice as well was very similar to Chris Hemsworth's. That accent that he puts on, I think they must have all been doing a contest behind the scenes or something like that, because they all, as we said, Chris Pratt certainly had it down to a T, and Peter Dinklage did as well. Those interactions with Rocket and Thor, there was quite an emotional scene, when Rocket and Thor were interacting, and basically, Thor's given the Guardians of the Galaxy character a little bit of background on where he's been, where he's came from, and what he's lost, and it was quite a nice scene. I thought there was a little sort of wry smile from Thor as he was talking about the loss of his brother, his father, and his sister,
and his mother as well.
And his best friend. So there was a lot of humour between them as well, but there was also some emotional pull to it as well.
Yeah, I think I actually laughed at that, Stephen, in the theatre. I don't think anyone else did. There was a bit earlier on as well when he's introduced to the Guardians and he's talking to Gamora, and he mentions that as well, but something about that's life, isn't it? When he rhymes through all the things that have happened to him, and I was thinking to myself, that isn't life at all. For what the hell are you talking about, son? Nobody I know loses that many people. I think he says his father gets killed, his brother gets strangled, his sister gets stabbed in the chest, his mother gets killed with a dark elf. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? I actually laughed at that. And his best friend gets killed too. He's not a lucky chap but certainly it fuels him in this film. He's a very angry chap towards the end. I just wish he went for the head. But certainly that sequence was great. I loved the moment where he brings it back to life. He uses the Guardians of the Galaxy ship to the pod to power the Forge back on. That was just showcasing his power. And of course he gets that new weapon. I can't remember the name he acts. Groot sacrifices a limb, I think, to give it the handle. But running, I think, sequentially, and that's Stephen, maybe just afterwards, we get to see Star-Lord and Gamora journeying to that planet. I can't remember where it is, where the Collector's at, to try and get the Reality Stone, I believe it is, and we see Thanos showing his cerebral side of things. He's a very smart villain as well as powerful. He transforms the reality around about them. It's obviously in ruin and burning, but they are not aware of that. They walk right into the trap. This is really baiting Gamora. He wants to get a hold of her. Also, we know he's got a close relationship with her. Briefly, we see her stab Thanos, and we think, is he dead? And I'm like, no, he can't be, no chance.
I've got to be honest, I did think she'd done him in. It did look that way, and I thought, hold on, there's only 40 minutes of this film gone. I've still got another 2 hours to go. I think the purpose of the scene was to show their relationship. It was certainly a love-hate relationship, and the minute she plunged that knife into him, the actual knife that he actually gave to her as a little girl, you could see the torment in her. She definitely was affected by her actions towards him as he just lay in a heap. I think that was just to show the audience the relationship, because previous to that there was little bits in Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, not much. It was really through Nebula that you understood the sort of dynamics of the relationships between the sisters and their father. In this, it was more direct, especially when she went and attacked him and what she thought killed him, and she just totally broke down after that. But it was a great scene. Very brief role for Benicio del Toro as a collector as well. I love that character. I certainly liked him in the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. You just don't get enough of Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, and obviously round about that point as well, Drax gets turned into blocks, and that annoying antennae mind control character, I forget her name, she gets turned into a weird sort of a spiral thing. I can't remember the name of that toy. That was great. I enjoyed that. Slinky, yeah. And obviously he then reveals that he's not actually dead. He takes Gamora, kind of a toys with Star-Lord a little bit. He says he likes him, and then he disappears off. And then we get to see a joint sort of a perspective. We get to see Steve Rogers turning up at Wakanda. That all playing out, them discussing with Shuri what they're going to do with Vision and stuff like that. We get to see that battle commencing shortly afterwards, which was absolutely epic. I think it's preceding at midnight, and a couple of other ones attacking Wakanda with all those strange little animalistic creatures. I don't know if that happened much later on, but it certainly happened shortly afterwards. And then in between that, we're seeing Nebula getting tortured by Thanos. She's getting taken apart. I actually wasn't aware she was as mechanical as she actually is. And that was a great scene. And then round about then we get introduced to an old favourite as well, when they go to retrieve the Soul Stone. And we see a tragic moment in that film as well. You touched upon that, Stephen, at this point. The death of Gamora. It was actually quite tragic in a way, and the way she died, she met her end. We don't know if she's actually dead or not, because there is rumours that she may pop back up, Lord knows. They may use time travel and whatnot. She may have been trapped in an alternate reality through the Soul Stone and stuff like that. We just don't know what's going on. And also we get to see Red Skull popping up briefly as a sort of a guardian to this past, and it's not played by Hugo Weaving, I believe, Stephen. It was Ross Marquand or something that played him. Great to see that character again. First time we've seen him since the first Avenger, Captain America, the first Avenger. So that was cool. So much things going on at the one time in that point of the film, Stephen. We're seeing Iron Man, Peter Parker, Doctor Strange turning up, and Titans laying their plans for Thanos coming. They meet up with Peter Quill and Drax and that weird female character, I don't know her name, on Titan. That's all getting set up. We're seeing the Wakanda thing taking place. We're seeing this taking place. What did you think when Gamora met her end? I thought it was quite touching, because you can see a bit of emotion in the Thanos character. This isn't just a brute villain. He's got feelings in there. He does feel for her. You can tell he cares for her. I think the Red Skull Guardian type thing says that you have to give up the closest thing to you to actually get the Soul Stone. She thinks that's him at his end because he doesn't care for anything. And then Red Skull says those tears aren't for him, and she meets her end. That was quite a touching moment.
Yeah, you could sense it coming though, John, to be honest with you. That was the purpose of the journey at that point for those characters. It was very emotional, I've got to say that. It was very gutting to see the demise of Gamora in that way. She's one of those characters that you just love to watch on screen. Certainly in those Guardians of the Galaxy films, she was up there with Peter Quill, toe to toe, and it was another scene that just explained the relationship that Thanos and Gamora had. Obviously, you get those flashbacks as well when she was a little girl. A lot of them were prominent in the trailers anyway. There was no surprises there, and it was really just basically this film was about Thanos and his stepdaughter for most of it anyway, and their relationship. And to see Thanos, I think he may have said, I'm paraphrasing here, he said something that it had to be done.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to let it not happen again. I don't know exactly what that meant, but it was definitely focused on his quest and what he had to achieve. Certainly he must have failed in the past. This time nothing was going to stop him, and sadly his stepdaughter paid the price for that. Those interactions that we've been sort of hinting at between Peter Quill and Tony Stark on Titan is, where things start to kick off, especially when they do capture Thanos. This is one of the most frustrating parts of the film for me.
Yeah, just quickly touching back on what you said, Stephen, it shows the determination of Thanos. He's willing to sacrifice everything to make sure this mission that he's on, this crusade he's on, gets done. And those flashback scenes, we didn't touch upon them, you're absolutely right, they happened before that. That again gives an insight into Thanos and what it is he's trying to do here. He's trying to balance the universe. It's something about it being overbalanced and causing misery and suffering because people are not able to live on the worlds. It's causing starvation. He says he saves her world. We see a little brief glimpse of him taking her from a world, and half of the village she's taken from gets killed, the other half's left. That kind of gives an insight into his motivations, what it is he's planning on doing. And we get to see their relationship explored. Definitely as a Thanos film. I think it was pretty much a Thanos backstory film here. It was all about him, with the Avengers just in tow trying to stop him, but it was very much Thanos heavy. I loved that because I don't know much about the character, I've got to be honest, so it was great seeing his motivations, seeing him. And then obviously, as you say, they go to Titan, they lay out a great plan. I think it was actually Star-Lord that came up with the plan, and it was a brilliant plan because they managed to capture him, and it was amazing seeing it all come together. They were just throwing everything at him, and he's throwing parts of a moon at them afterwards. But obviously Star-Lord in his anger discovering Gamora's died, I think Nebula turns up. Yeah. He punches Thanos and that releases the grip of that antenna woman, I need to find her name. And then that obviously means that they've lost control of him, and he then regains the gauntlet off of Iron Man and Spider-Man, who have at one point nearly got it. They've nearly defeated him, and then all hell breaks loose. There's moons getting pulled down and everything, and he just completely overwhelms him. He stabs Iron Man, and then obviously Doctor Strange makes that decision to sacrifice the Time Stone. Previous to that, I think we get to see Doctor Strange going through 40 million different variations of what could happen. I think it says there's only one where they win, which again is going to have quite a bit of importance and significance towards the end of the film, because I think it is clear him giving this Time Stone up was necessary for them to prevail in the end. I think it's clear that the path they're going down is the one that leads to victory, but I'm getting sidetracked again, Stephen. That was a great moment though. Visually it was stunning. I love seeing them all come together, and it just shows you the sheer power again of Thanos, that there's about 5 or 6 Avengers here, and they're really struggling to subdue the guy. Just an absolute monster of a villain, one of the most powerful villains I've seen in a superhero film to date. And then after that, we're getting to see that fantastic Wakanda battle, which was just unbelievable, absolutely epic. So much going on. We've got these big diggers coming out, we've got these annoying little animalistic creatures attacking. Steve Rogers, Bucky, everybody's teaming up together. T'Challa, absolutely epic moment. And then of course Thor makes his appearance. I'll let you in, Stephen.
Yeah, when Thor makes his appearance, this is probably a standout moment in the film for me. Topple that with Alan Silvestri's famous score, Avengers score. Very, hairs in the back of your neck standing up moment as Thor just enters the fray. But I'm just going back to those scenes again on Titan, John.
Yeah.
It signified the relationship again. We're talking relationships here a lot tonight on this podcast with this movie, but this is what this film is all about, and the relationship between Peter Quill and Gamora, and how much he cares for this character showed. You saw Tony Stark warning him, contain your feelings at this moment, we're nearly there, and he just couldn't, because he knew obviously what happened through I think it was Nebula. It may have pushed it a bit further for him to react the way he did, but as you said, that that moon throwing scene as well, it just the sheer magnitude and the power of this character. As you said, this is very Thanos heavy, this film. This is his movie. Just want to stop on our tracks for a moment, John, and just talk about Thanos here, because at this point in the movie, he's not a cardboard cutout villain. He's not one-dimensional. He's not just an out-and-out evil Emperor Palpatine type villain.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about him gaining power. It's all about balance for this character, and what he thinks he is doing is the right thing.
Yeah, in his mind he's definitely right. He thinks what he's doing is for the greater good of the universe and the galaxy. He thinks that balancing everything is going to lead to a happier life for the people that live. I think he says it's non-discriminate. The rich and the poor all die together. And when he's done with it, he's going to go off to an idyllic alternate world and rest easy. And we see that at the end of the film. He does just that. So yeah, I mean, it was fantastic to see a villain which is just an absolute monster, tearing up everything, pulling planets down and everything, taking 5, 6, 7 people to subdue him for a brief moment. But at the same time, he's got real reasons for behind doing what he's doing. He's not a cardboard evil villain, as you said, Stephen. He's got real motivations behind it. He's a multifaceted character, and that was great to see. Because, as we said earlier, Marvel villains have had a bit of a hard time in the past. They've said they've not been fleshed out enough, they've not been given a big enough role in the films. It's all been but the hero characters turning up and saving the day and taking them out. As you said, Loki was the villain in the first Avengers film. Ultron was actually quite decent in the Avengers Age of Ultron. He was actually quite a good villain. But out with that, I mean, you look at all the other standalone films, I can't think of any of the villains in them. The Red Skull, exactly. I mean, they're very poor, so you can see the argument, and it's great just to see this type of villain coming in finally in Infinity War. It was just a fantastic villain. It was all about him. Thoroughly enjoyed Josh Brolin's performance, incidentally. I thought he was absolutely amazing. Even the visuals of him. A lot of people were commenting on it being quite poor in the trailers, certainly the early trailers. But in this film, the visuals were unbelievable. All the little twitches in his face. He looked like a real character. And Josh Brolin, a big fan of him for years and years and years. Can't wait to see him in the Soldado film coming up later in the year as well. Thought he was just magnificent in this film. Real multifaceted performance. In terms of performances, Steve, before we go on into the final part of the film and our discussions and that, who do you think was actually standout performing in this film? I'm going to say it's probably a toss-up between Josh Brolin and Chris Hemsworth, but I don't know. What was your thoughts, Stephen?
You know, Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in this was fantastic. I think this is his best performance to date. Tony Stark was certainly a lot more serious in this film. You know, we did touch on the first half hour of the film. It was just banter, you know, back and forth between each of the characters, which was some of the best lines we've heard, you know, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But, you know, the second half of the film, I thought Robert Downey Jr.'s character was more of a serious nature. Certainly the relationship between him and Peter Parker, you know, as we'll touch on in those final scenes, was very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
As you said, Chris Hemsworth, throughout the film, just shone. I didn't think he would be able to top his character from Ragnarok, but he certainly did in this film. Chris Pratt, as I said, you know, as Peter Quill was excellent as always. I did think that if we're talking about characters, I thought the relationship between Scarlet Witch and Vision was probably the most surprising. I didn't think they would be as prominent. I thought both actors were fantastic in their scenes together, very convincing. Although I did mention previously there was no romantic build-up between these two characters, where they were just sort of plonked down into Edinburgh, you know, and they had this romantic relationship. There certainly was hints of it in Civil War, and there was like, you know, both of them cared for each other, but it was certainly a lot heavier in this film. But for me, I would have to say Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, and Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. I don't think there was a bad performance in the film, Stephen, I've got to be honest. Mark Ruffalo, yeah. Exactly, I mean, there wasn't a bad performance in this film. I've seen a lot of people criticising the character development in this film, saying it was non-existent, but where have they been? This is the culmination of 10 years of work. You want character development, go and watch your standalones. It's 10 years of standalones. Watch them, that's where the character developments were. This was all about Thanos and the epic battles that took place with him trying to kill off half the universe. Certainly, in talking about killing off half the universe, that epic finale, Stephen, Jesus Christ, finale on Wakanda. Talk about battles, we've got Proxima Midnight meeting their end with one of those digger things. There's deaths all over the place. Corvus Glaive, I think his name is. He gets done in as well by, I can't remember who killed him actually. It might have been Steve Rogers, it may have been somebody else. I think it actually might have been Hulk, flung him up and they get killed on the holographic shield thing around Wakanda. That was an epic moment as well, his limbs getting sheared off with that shield thing. But that ending, Stephen, it was tragic and brilliant in equal measures for me. Also, we see Vision, the race against time with him and Scarlet Witch trying to get the stone out of his head before Thanos can get it off him. I thought that was a little bit ridiculous, I've got to be honest. She was trying to have a no, I can't do it moment, and Thanos is like 10 metres away from her, just tearing it up. I'm like, Jesus Christ, get it out of his head, what is going on here? Yeah. Obviously, and the Thor as well, Thor turning up so late, that annoyed the life out of me. I'm like, where the hell is Thor? This guy's appeared, he's tearing it up in the battlefield, during the battle, and I'm like, where is he? Come on, Thor, come and save the day. And then he's obviously too late.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the minute that Thanos had the Time Stone, which I know you'll touch on a little bit more, John, I think we just skip by that a little bit, but a very important part of the film. But yeah, I mean, the minute he had that stone, it was very obvious that it didn't matter what any of them did at that point. Yeah. But I'll let you back in.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Stephen, when he pops up on Wakanda, that moment where it's just silence and the leaves are like drifting through the air, that was incredible. You just felt the tension and the dread in the air when he appeared. That was an epic moment. But you're right, when he got the Time Stone, you knew there was nothing they could do. He could just roll back time. And that's certainly what he does do. Thor comes in with an epic moment, cleaves him right in the chest, and you're like, yes, he's got him. I think you actually says that at the time, Stephen. But obviously he then says you should have went for the head, and he rolls back time and just clicks his finger, and that's it. And what a moment that transpires after that. We see people dropping like flies or turning to dust like flies. I don't think that has the same meaning, no, but that was shocking awe in the theatre we were in anyway, Stephen. It was pure silence and shock at what was transpiring.
I think the first one to go was the Winter Soldier, and that signified, they could have made it any Joe Blogs on Wakanda and we'd have been like, what's that all about?
And they did.
But the fact that they did it with the Winter Soldier right away showed the seriousness of what had just happened. The battle scenes on Wakanda were fantastic. I know we joked when we were in the theatre, it did remind us of Naboo, the Battle of Naboo, as we all recall, certainly reminiscent of the landscape and those sort of force field shield things coming down, but only did better. But those closing scenes it should have been shocking, but I think deep down we all know these are all fake deaths anyway. Nevertheless, it didn't take the moment away, I've got to be honest. When you're caught up in the moment and you're not used to seeing the villain winning the day in any film, any superhero film anyway. So it was a nice difference. It was a nice take that the way this film ended. I don't think that Avengers 4 is going to be a direct sequel to this film when it comes out. I think it's next year.
Yeah, next April.
I think there might be a bit of a time gap between that. We'll certainly see more indication when Ant-Man and the Wasp film comes out. I think that's the next one to come out, if I'm right.
It is,
and certainly there will be indications of what's going to happen next in that, probably in the post-credit scenes. I'm not sure, maybe not, but I don't think it's going to be a direct sequel. This film had a finish. The way it played out was the way that Thanos predicted it. He said very early in the film that I can't remember who it was that asked him, how do you think this is going to end? And he says, I'm going to be sitting on my porch watching the sun go down. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I'm going to touch back on a couple of things you said, Stephen. The one that shocked me the most probably of the characters turned to dust, and I completely agree with you incidentally, this is fake deaths. They're all going to come back, there's no doubt about it. And Marvel aren't going to throw away a $1 billion franchise with Black Panther, but the one that shocked me the most was Spider-Man. Just because obviously Spidey senses start tingling and he realises right away. The other ones don't really know, they're not aware of the fact that they're turning to dust. But he realises, and the panic in him, that was a sad moment. And seeing Tony Stark, he was really emotional about it. You can see the relationship they have with each other, those characters. That was a sad moment. But touching on what you said about this not being a direct sequel, I completely agree. I think there is going to be a time gap there. And I think this film was fantastic in the way that it stands separate as a great independent film, much in the same way that The Dark Knight stands separate in that particular trilogy. I think this film and the sequences that take place within it make for a very good film on its own, and that's something that's been fantastic in much of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that each of these films and stories can stand alone and be great films. You can go and watch them, you don't need to interconnect it all, and they're all stand alone and they're great films. Certainly Black Panther's the most recent version, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man. And I think that was brilliant in this film as well. I think the story itself is a great standalone film. It doesn't have to be interconnected. Obviously it is. Start to finish, I think this film is brilliant. The story's great. And I agree, I think that there's going to be a time gap in there, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's my sentiments as well, John. Going into this film, I was concerned about the screen time all these characters would have. I thought there was the right balance there. I thought they all got the correct screen time. There's a lot of films where you've got a big cast where, some of the cast could be missing for a good 40 minutes before they're back in the film. Classic example of a very small cast was in Terminator 2. Robert Patrick was in a scene and wasn't seen again for about 40 minutes, the T2.
Yeah.
There was no indications of that in this film. I thought all the cast certainly had enough screen time to understand. I did laugh at that comment about the characters very undeveloped. As you said, just go back and watch the last 10 years of Marvel films if you want to see how these characters developed. It certainly wasn't, up there with the Benicio del Toro character from The Last Jedi, DJ, that just came into this and went back out again. There was certainly room for development in the standalone films, as you said. It's been a long wait for this film. It's been an absolute amazing journey just watching these characters in their own standalone films, and we're now at a Avengers trilogy now, surprisingly. I never thought about it that way. Obviously that will change next year with Avengers 4, but I just think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe have just played their cards right over the last decade, and I just can't wait to see more.
Yeah, just finally touching on that end credits scene, Stephen, what did you make of that? I thought that was fantastic. Obviously Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury character just about getting the mother in there before he turns to dust. That was brilliant. And then you get the little pager icon. It's since been revealed. I wasn't aware of what it was in the cinema, I can't lie, but it's actually Captain Marvel that's going to also be popping up and maybe saving the day in Avengers 4, and that would lend into what you said, Stephen, about there being a time gap, because I think her film's set in the 90s, the standalone film, so that's a prequel. So I think there is going to be a time gap, and there's a lot of speculation over which way they're going to go about saving all these characters that have met their end. As I said, they're not going to let $1 billion franchise in Black Panther go to waste. He ain't dying, no chance. A lot of people are speculating that it's actually Spider-Man as well. A lot of people are speculating it could be through the quantum dimension via Ant-Man. That may be revealed in Ant-Man and the Wasp coming up. Although I think they're hinting in the trailer that's recently dropped that there's no connection at all. I don't know if that's the case. But there's a whole host of different possibilities. They could time travel, they could use the time stone. Maybe Thanos feels guilt over what he did to Gamora and goes back and changes it. Lord knows, there's so many different possibilities and theories. But it's very interesting. It's going to be very interesting seeing which one that they choose to take for Avengers 4. As I says, Doctor Strange heavily hinted in a couple of little lines that this is the one route that leads to victory. He says there was millions of possibilities and there was only one that led to victory. Him handing over the time stone was not done recklessly. He very deliberately gave that over, and this must be them leading to the one path. Everything's, I think he says to Iron Man before he dies, had to be this way. So I've got faith that they'll get it right, and I know all these characters will come back and it'll all end happily ever after. Yeah,
and just ending on this, we're only a few months away now from the release of the Ant-Man Wasp film, John. I know that you previously said at the start of the year this film may suffer. I think it's going to, the way that Infinity War ended, I think this is going to actually be an advantage to the Ant-Man film. I think this is what Marvel fans are now craving. They want more, and they're going to get it obviously in a standalone film with the Paul Rudd character. And this, I enjoyed the original film. I thought it's one of my best standalone films, up there with Doctor Strange. I'm certainly looking forward to that, and I don't think it's going to, with the ending of Infinity War, I don't think this is going to suffer now. I think this is what the fans need.
Yeah, Stephen, that really rounds up our discussion on Avengers Infinity War. I can't believe it's went on for nigh on an hour. That's actually incredible. But moving swiftly on, Stephen, we're going to quickly go into the Movie Burner blog rundown where we discuss the previous 7 reviews of the week. What have we got up first?
The first film we're going to talk about is actually 2 actors from the MCU appear in this, Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen. This film was reviewed by Darren last week, and it's Wind River from 2017, and basically the plot is a veteran tracker with the Fish and Wildlife Services, helps to investigate the murder of a young Native American woman and uses the case as a means of seeking redemption for an earlier act of irresponsibility which ended in tragedy.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this film, Stephen. Watched it last year. It was a brilliant film. Taylor Sheridan's a great director. He's a great writer. As I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Jerry Morena was the real standout in this. Elizabeth Olsen was great as well. And it had a great story. It really highlighted, much like what a lot of Taylor Sheridan's films do, it highlighted the treatment of Native Americans and stuff like that in modern day society. And I thought it was a brilliant film. Great story. And a great ending with the killer met his comeuppance.
Yeah, Darren's final thoughts were, it's a good film, not perfect but close. Also gives credit for keeping the film under 2 hours and keeping the pace and tension up. It's a must watch.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. But moving on though, Stephen, we've got A Quiet Place directed by John Krasinski, starring Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, Millicent Simmons and a couple of other people which I can't remember the names of. I had obviously reviewed this last week, Stephen. Brilliant film. He really shook up the horror genre, John Krasinski, and he used the silence to absolute brilliant effect. Really tense film, quick paced, and I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish.
You did an audio review of this as well, John.
Yeah.
I recall from last week as well. Where you did say the CG stood up as well in this film. I was very interested to hear you say, it's one of those films you don't want to get into the theatre with a bag of Doritos.
Yeah.
With the tension and the silence in this film. It was one of those ones that I was looking at to go to the theatre and see. I may still go and see this film because it's certainly right up my street.
Yeah, if you like horror films, Stephen, this will be up your street, but it's much more than a horror film. It's got a whole host of things going on. But moving on to the next film, Stephen, we are going to be talking about Streamer, directed by Jared Bratt, starring Jared Bratt and Tanya Lee. This was sent to Movie Burners by the director himself for an early screening of it. Darren's obviously reviewed it. We both watched it as well, Stephen. We're going to give our thoughts on it.
Yeah, I watched this last night, John, and one of the things that I always like about independent films is the freedom that directors have on these. I know that Jared is also the main star in this movie, the main character. I felt it was a very good character study. It was one of those films. A lot of independent films use that sort of stationary camera. Certainly it was prominent in this film, and I thought the way this was shot was perfect for the way the dialogue was used as well. There was a lot of pauses. I know that Darren had a little slight issue with some of the pacing. He felt there was a little bit dragged on in scenes. I could see where he was coming from, but I think there was a bit of tension in those scenes as well, where some of the scenes had to be left hanging. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was a good take on loneliness. That seemed to be the sort of theme to this film. And it was a very interesting film to watch. It just came in at 78 minutes. I thought the running time of this was just right. I actually disagree with Darren here. I thought the film, because it was character driven, had to allow the story to run its course. And it was a thoroughly enjoyable film.
Yeah, I agree with the stationary camera comment, Stephen. You also see that sitting inside the flat or his apartment, focusing on the door in a lot of scenes. And the apartment itself, I thought that was kind of a bit of a sanctuary for this character. And in equal measures, it was a bit of a prison for him, because he went back there and he was obviously very, very lonely. And it was a tragic character, the character of Jared. Seeing him lying on the bed with the MacBook opened and he's watching this model on the Streamer website. It was my heart went out to him. It really did. I felt sorry for him. But as you said, Stephen, it was very dialogue heavy as well. And some of those scenes, I was cringing at some of the moments with him, because he was so painfully awkward. There was gaps between him talking. There was a moment on the balcony when he's talking to the girl, and there was about 5 seconds of silence, and I'm just like, please say something. I was screaming in my mind to say something, because I was just urging him on. I wanted him to have a relationship with this woman, find happiness, but it just wasn't to be in this film. It was a very sad film.
But real life, I think anyone who suffers from loneliness or shyness, that is the way they are. There is that awkwardness about them. They struggle to strike up conversations and hold down conversations. And as you said, John, it certainly was prominent in this film. I think it was the cafe scene that stood out the most to me. Where it was uncomfortable to watch, but at the same time it was realistic.
Yeah, that's something that really transcends the whole running time of this film, Stephen. It is a very uncomfortable watch. I think Darren says that in his review, that it's a good film, but it's not an enjoyable watch because the topics being explored, the themes being explored are very uncomfortable. It's not every day you get to see a film like this where it really does go into loneliness. Someone that's not at ease in their own skin want to have a relationship and they're not able to do it. And I thought he was as I says, he was a tragic character. I did wonder throughout the film, is this a guy that's maybe getting mental health problems? And we do see a lot of moments where he's in his head and he's having conversations, and I was wondering, is this a guy that's schizophrenic, or is he just a deeply unhappy, lonely and tragic figure? And certainly at the end of the film, it's kind of confirmed that he's maybe a bit of all. He's maybe lonely, living in an imaginary world, and perhaps schizophrenic as well, because obviously it's seen off camera, but I think he does kill the woman at the end of the film. I don't know why I'm laughing, because that wasn't funny. But it just shows that, as I says, I was willing this character on throughout the entire film to have a happy end, but it just wasn't to be for him. But as you said, Stephen, as Darren says as well in his review, it was a very good independent film, very character driven, and I thought Jared Bratt himself, I thought he was probably the standout performer in the film. Perfectly portrayed the awkwardness of that sort of shy, isolated and lonely character, and I thought it was a great performance, and I thoroughly enjoyed the film, I did.
Yeah, but just moving on now to our next movie review. This was one from Darren, and this was a 2016 release, Before I Wake, directed by Mike Flanagan, starring Kate Bosworth, who I've not heard of since Superman Returns, Thomas Jane, Jacob Tremblay, and the plot is a young couple adopt an orphan child who dreams and nightmares manifest physically as he sleeps. Sounds a bit like an X-Files episode to me, John.
Yeah, I've not heard of this film, Steve. I'm not going to lie, I don't know much about it, but I see Jacob Tremblay's in there, and I think he's a supremely talented young boy. Also, he appeared in Wonder last year. He's been in The Room, he was also in that horrendous Colin Trevorrow film, The Book of Henry, which I absolutely despise. I think that got him the sack on episode 9, I've got to be honest with you. But the film looks interesting enough, and the concept of it looks interesting enough as well. As you says, it's kind of a reminiscent of an X-Files episode, and I may go and give this a watch at some point. It's a fairly short affair as well, I believe, only 97 minutes long, so yeah.
Yeah, and certainly with Thomas Jane in there, I think there's a great cast overall. But, I watched him in a film that I reviewed earlier on this year, 1922, Stephen King film. Excellent performance, and I think I will check this one out as well.
Yeah, Stephen, and just moving on to one that you reviewed, I don't know if it was last week or this week, Stephen, I think it was last week. Death Wish, of course, directed by Eli Roth and starring Bruce Willis, Vincent D'Onofrio, Elizabeth Shue, Camilla Morrone and Dean Norris. I watched this film as well, Stephen. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's obviously based on the 1970s Death Wish film about a chap who is really liberal in his views, and then his family has a bit of a family tragedy. His wife gets killed and his daughter goes into a coma, and he turns full-on vigilante and starts hunting down the killers. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I do like a good revenge film. Wasn't as good as a sort of a John Wick type thing, but I loved some of the action. I know it got a bit of backlash about the pro-gun sort of elements in it, but I thought it was a thoroughly enjoyable film. Some of the violence was right up my street as well. The carjack moment was in the acid getting poured on the wound. That was a fun favourite.
Yeah, directed by Eli Roth, who took me by surprise in this film. Obviously his claim to fame is the horror genre, that he does so well, some might say. In this film I was very impressed with his drama, the way he directed this movie, and also Bruce Willis as playing a very realistic character, and the way that he turns, it's not an unrealistic turn. John Wick, as you said, is more comic book, and it's a lot of satisfaction in that character. This one, there was a more slower build up to the turn of the character, and his actions and executions were a little bit more organic and realistic than John Wick's gun toting skills. I liked it. I liked it because it was something different from Eli Roth, and it's certainly something different from Bruce Willis. It wasn't an all-out action film that a lot of people may have thought it was going to be. Certainly that last half hour of the film there was a lot of action, but the film itself wasn't definitely in the action genre. I would say it was more drama based.
Yeah, Bruce Willis was probably the standout in the film scene. Vincent D'Onofrio was quite cool too, though. I think he was a brother, I figure, or something like that. And
His brother.
And he helped him out at the end. But moving on to the next one, Stephen, we have Krampus, reviewed by Darren earlier in the week. It stars Adam Scott, Toni Collette, David Koechner, and it's directed by Michael Dougherty. And the plot of this film is really about a boy who has a bad Christmas and accidentally ends up summoning a festive demon to his family home. I've not seen it, Stephen. Don't know much about it. But I'm sure you won't like me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when this was out in the cinema. It was roughly around about the time The Force Awakens came out. It was just, I think, December 2015 it came out. Kevin and I, fellow movie burner, we discussed actually going to see this film. And as you said, you know, this film is about a festive demon who's summoned. Darren's final thoughts on the film, he said it was an interesting film and one that does hold your attention, but not a film good enough to be a Christmas horror classic, meaning something you would watch around the holidays.
Yeah, as I said, I've not seen the film, Stephen. I don't know too much about it, but we're just moving on to the final film of this week's Movie Burner Blog Rundown, and it is Blockers, reviewed by myself earlier in the week, or last week. I'm getting a lot of mind loss at the moment. I think I'm going amnesic.
It's just Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just Thursday. And it's directed by Kay Cannon. It stars Catherine Newton, John Cena, Leslie Mann and E.K. Barinholtz. This is a comedy film also. It's Kay Cannon's directorial debut, and it's about a group of daughters making a sex pact on their prom night, and the parents really going out their way and doing everything in their power to stop them. Lots of laughs in this film. It's a very Marmite film, I say that in my review. If you're into that genre, then this is certainly not going to disappoint you. It's a good addition to it. If you're not into it, it's not going to change your opinion on it. John Cena was a standout alongside E.K. Barinholtz. I thought those two were absolutely outstanding. John Cena, unbelievably funny in it at times, much like a Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers Infinity War, with that type of comedy, just stupid but really, really funny. And yeah, I've not got much more to add to it. If you want to hear any more, read the review. Yeah,
and you can certainly catch up with these reviews on our website at movieburnerentertainment.org. Certainly with that film, John, we certainly talked about it in great lengths on the next topic that we're going to move on to now, in the next section of the show, which is the box office chat. This is basically just running down the top 10 films in the UK at the moment in the box office, and coming in at number 1, John.
Yes, Stephen, also this is the weekend of 20th of April to 22nd of April, so this is pre-Avengers Infinity War, so we're not going to get into that until next week. But at number 1 for this particular weekend is Rampage, which grossed 1.4 million over the weekend, and it's taken its total gross to 6.5 million. I've still not went to see this yet. Also, the Dwayne Johnson action film, I think it's in a similar vein to San Andreas, where it's just popcorn flick action. And I probably will get around to seeing this at some point, but I haven't as of yet. Not surprised at the success it's having though.
Certainly not, John. Second week, and it's grossed 6.5 million is very impressive for what was originally a video game.
Yeah. Based
on the video game, I should say. You put Dwayne Johnson's name in there, it's going to be a winner anyway. He's certainly on fire at the moment. He's got a lot of irons in the fire as well. He's got a lot of upcoming films coming up. It's certainly one of those films that you have to go and see in the cinema, I think, or I feel. It's definitely built for that. There's going to be a lot of carnage, going to be a lot of action, a lot of visuals in there as well. And I think I will go round to seeing this in theatre over the next few weeks.
Yes, and just moving on to number 2, we have A Quiet Place, which is actually up one from the previous weekend. It's grossed 1 million, taking its total gross to 8.7 million. I've just spoke about this film in the previous topic, Stephen. Brilliant little horror film, really shook up the genre. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't have much more to say about it though. Have you got anything to say about it, Stephen? Well, we'll move right on to number 3 then, which is going to be a right tongue twister for me. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. I believe this is based on a novel. I've not read the novel. I don't know anything about the film. I think it's actually got quite a decent cast though from a previous little Google search on it. It hits gross 800,000 for the weekend, taking its total gross to 800,000 because it's a new release. It's only shown in 499 theatres. As I said, don't know much about it, Stephen.
Yeah, it's basically a writer that forms an unexpected bond with the residents of Guernsey in the aftermath of World War II, where she decides to write a book about her experiences during the war. Mm-hmm. Certainly hints to being a sort of drama, historical, possibly maybe romantic as well in there. I know that this is getting a lot of showtime here in Glasgow. It's certainly getting spread across the city over 18 theatres, so it's also getting a good rating as well on IMDb's, and I've just saw certainly the cast with Lily James in there, most famous for being in Baby Driver and Cinderella. Matthew Good as well. I recall him being in, I think he was a villain in Watchmen as well, a very good villain. So the cast as well was very impressive.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to watch it though, Stephen. It's not up my street, it's not my type of film, I'm not going to lie. And we're going to move on to number 4, which is Ready Player One. I think we've discussed this one to the death, Stephen, but I'll give out the grossings because that's what we're discussing. It's grossed 500,000 for the weekend, taking its total gross to a fairly lacklustre 15.4 million. For a film of this size, that's kind of a disappointing, I have to say, certainly when you look at the one coming up next, which was probably created on a quarter of the budget. But I mean, it was a thoroughly enjoyable film for me, full of pop culture references and some great moments.
You think, John, that possibly the novelty value is wearing off slightly now from this film? Because, as you said, there's a lot of pop cultural references in there, which I thoroughly enjoyed. You know, being born in the mid-70s, I got a lot of it. Had a great thrill going back and seeing it again and again, and picking out these little Easter eggs. But do you think possibly that the novelty factor is probably wearing off in people now?
I think the novelty factor was probably wearing off immediately for some people, Stephen. I've got to be honest with you. There's certain generations, most notably those born after the 80s, that are just not going to connect with this film at all. Yeah, millennials, they're not going to connect with it. I was born right at the end of the 80s. I've been brought up on the 80s pop culture, the likes of The Terminator, Back to the Future, so on and so forth, Rambo and all of those sort of films, classic films. The Shining, one of my all-time favourite films, so I got a lot of the references. I did enjoy the references. I enjoyed this film, but it's not going to connect with everyone. It's going to be a Marmite release. Younger people aren't going to connect with it. They're not going to go and watch it. End of story. And that's just a fact of life. And it showed in the total grossing to date. It's been out for 4 weeks and it's only grossed just over £15 million, which is a far cry from what the next film has grossed, Peter Rabbit, at number 5, which has grossed 480,000 for the weekend, and sitting at a £39 million total gross just out 6 weeks. That's a phenomenal performance for that film. I didn't expect that, I've got to be honest with you, but it's been a really, really good 6 or 7 months for animated films, for the likes of Coco, Paddington 2, Peter Rabbit, and just tearing up at the box office over here.
Yeah, from an audience point of view, it's certainly surprised and surpassed its expectations. I also think that for the cast and crew, I don't think they could have expected this to be the success it has. I've mentioned this previous podcast about its release date. It was certainly marketed for the Easter holidays for the kids and families to go out and view this film. It's certainly grew arms and legs since that time, and it's just phenomenal. Just under 40 million it's grossed in 6 weeks. Very impressive for an animated film.
It is, and it's shown in an unbelievable amount of theatres as well, double what anything else in this weekend has. Or nearly double anyway. But moving on to number 6, we have a film which is not doing so well, and I'm pleased to see it. We have Truth or Dare, grossing just 398,000 for the weekend, taking its total gross to 1.8 million. It's been out 2 weeks. This is a Blumhouse horror, and it's a pathetic attempt at horror, and it's rightly crashing at the box office, and I'm delighted. And you've got nothing to ask, Stephen, so we're going to move swiftly on again to another film which we've talked about again and again and again and again in the top 10 box office for 17 weeks. The Greatest Showman grossed £300,000 for the weekend, and its total gross is now sitting at 44.5 million. I don't know who's continuing to go to see this film, Stephen. It's a remarkable achievement for the film. I'm not knocking it. I did enjoy it. I went to see it once about 7 or 8 weeks ago. I thought I went quite late then, but it's still in there. Some people are going to see it. I don't know who it is.
Yeah, nearly 45 million grossed over 17 weeks. Very impressive. I've got a funny feeling this film is just going to hang about the top 10 until The Greatest Showman 2 comes out. And we can then talk about that for 17 weeks. But it's phenomenal. I'm a big fan of Hugh Jackman. I get why this was his next film after Logan. It's a passion project for him, musicals. He's got a history of his experiences watching them. He appeared in the film Australia as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Where obviously, we were first introduced to his incredible singing abilities. Just moving on to the next film, John, number 8 this week, it's Love, Simon.
Yes, it's grossed 276,000 for the weekend, taking its total gross to 3.2 million. It's been out 3 weeks. I've still not went to see this. I don't think I'm going to go and see it, just because it's not my cup of tea. And there's much better films out at the moment that I'm going to go and see. I wouldn't say much better films, but films that catch my eye more. Certainly I'm going to go and watch Rampage, and I'll probably go back and watch Avengers. But got nothing to add to it, Steve. Don't know if you have. And you've got nothing to add to it as well. So we're going to move on to which is Black Panther. Still in there, remarkable achievement. I don't know if it's still in there this weekend, but certainly seen those two films, Avengers and Black Panther, in the box office, top 10 box office together would be something else. It's grossed 238,000 for the weekend, and its total gross is now sitting at an unbelievable 49.7 million after 10 weeks. Complete box office success. Don't know what more to say about it. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I went to see it twice. It's a great standalone film, one of the better standalone films. I still personally rate Ant-Man, Doctor Strange and Thor Ragnarok above it, but that's a personal opinion and it's not knocking this film any.
No, I think his introduction in Civil War helped this movie succeed, John. It was a great introduction to the character, the tragedy behind his father dying, and it's no surprise its success. I'm very happy to see it succeeding, and I think this was just unexpectedly and unpredictably the film that set up Infinity War. I just thought, because the film is prominent in Wakanda, it just set it up very nicely for Infinity War, which a large portion of that film was set in the same location, so it worked out well for Marvel, and I'm glad to see it's still in there. Yes,
and moving on to number 10 for the weekend. It's back in there. It was in there a couple of weeks ago as well. We've got Blade Runner, the final cut, and it's a secret cinema release. The one thing that catches my eye with this one is that it's grossed £228,000 for the weekend, and that's only shown in one theatre. Jesus Christ, what are they charging for a ticket? My lord, one theatre, £228,000 for one weekend. What are they charging for that experience? I don't know. I don't know if you've got anything to say about it, Stephen. I did love Blade Runner, but I don't think I'd go and watch it in this secret cinema thing. Not that I've got the choice, it's not being in Glasgow.
Yeah, we discussed this before, John, and I quite flippantly said that the box office must have been struggling that week for a 30-year-old film to appear back in the box office, but these secret showings, whatever they're called, seem to be working. There's also the cult following of these type of films as well. I thoroughly enjoyed the original. I've not got round to seeing the sequel yet, but it's one of those films that I like to get back to every now and again, not in sort of the levels of Star Wars or anything like that, but it's one of Harrison Ford's earlier films that I do enjoy. This was before he had that sort of spell in the 80s where he was doing sort of romantic based drama type films and stuff like that, like Witness and that, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and Regarding Henry, those type of films. But that was certainly one of the standout ones out with the Indiana Jones and Star Wars films.
Yeah, and before we round up this week's box office chat, Stephen, I'm going to do a little honourable mention for Isle of Dogs at number 11, because I went and seen this one last night. Absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this film from Wes Anderson. Brilliant little stop motion film, great little story, amazing visuals, some fantastic voiceover work as well. Sadly it's dropped out of the top 10 in favour of Blade Runner, the final cut, which is a shame because it's a brilliant little film. But anyway, I digress. That rounds up this week's version of the box office chat, where we break down all the previous weekend's films in the top 10 of the UK box office. And indeed it also rounds up episode 29. We'd like to thank you once again for giving us a little listen, and we'll be back to do it all again next week. Remember guys, if you're enjoying the content we're putting out, then do subscribe to us on YouTube at Movie Burner Entertainment, and on iTunes and Google Play at the Movie Burner Podcast, whilst also giving us a little follow on Facebook and Twitter at Movie Burners. You can also catch up with all the latest reviews we're putting out on the Movie Burner blog at movieburnerintertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.